What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of the 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below, the best gaming related show here on planet Earth. And with that being said, everyone, we have a lot of stuff we want to talk about in this episode of the show, so let's get into it. So Atomic Heart is a title, guys, that, you know what, it took me a little while for it to grow on me, but it reminds me so much of games like BioShock and Portal and some of these classic titles. And as I gave it more and more time, it has really grown on me and has become a game and a title that I absolutely love. And I want to talk about Atomic Heart in terms of the ending explained, but also talking about just the overall gist of this title and what they were trying to get at here over at Munfish. So I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are about Atomic Heart in the comment section down below. I really want to start a real conversation about this title and where it could be going in the future. So let's get into it. So guys, in an article that's coming to us from Robert Zach of DualShockers, Atomic Heart is a strange game with a fittingly strange and complex story set in a flourishing Soviet Union in an alternative history 1950s where the nation has mastered advanced robotics with the help of a mystery compound called polymer. The game puts you in the shoes of P3. I'm not very good with a lot of these Russian names, guys, so bear with me. A special agent who's been tasked with shutting down a catastrophic event at Science Institute Facility 3826, where the robots have run amok. The game opens with a spectacular sequence where P3 walks through crowds of people gathered to celebrate the launch of Collective 2.0, a neural network designed to give humans even greater control over robots and further improve the automation of menial labor, leaving more time for humanity to pursue whatever creative or academical pursuits they desire. But in the midst of the celebration, disaster strikes. The robots malfunction and start running rampant, killing people around Facility 3826. P3 meets with his longtime friend and superior, Dmitry Shekhinov, who runs the facility and discovered the substance polymer, and later found a way to inject polymer into the human body, allowing humans to control robots with the power of their minds as well as instantly learn a huge amount of information. Shekhinov asked P3 to track down and retrieve the head of a man called Viktor Petrov, who he believes is responsible for the robot catastrophe. Petrov is a lead engineer on Collective and did indeed cause the robots to malfunction and start attacking people. P3 eventually finds Petrov's decapitated body, but it later turns out that Petrov staged his own death so that he could buy some time to let the world know about the incident at Facility 3826, as well as what he believes to be Shekhinov's true plans. Petrov's partner in crime here is his partner, Dr. Larissa, who saves P3 early in the game, not knowing that he's there to thwart them. Now, guys, from a story perspective, this game was incredible. I thought it was absolutely awesome. I mean, sometimes the gameplay is a little bit clunky, especially like sometimes the, combat mechanics are a little bit clunky to say the least at times, but overall had a lot of BioShock vibes, and the setting that they created was absolutely incredible. Now, we're going to be getting into some spoilers, guys, about the story and things of that nature, so if you haven't finished Atomic Heart, you definitely should. Or if you don't really care either way about hearing what happens in the end, then you can stay around, but you have been warned. Charles starts seeding doubts in P3 about Shekhinov's true intentions. He reveals that Collective 2.0 won't make everyone equal, as P3 naively thinks, but will actually be a hierarchy of power based around the alpha, beta, and gamma connectors for Collective 2.0. Only Shekhinov has access to the alpha connector, giving him a higher level of control over the network than anyone else. Charles persuades P3 to throw away the beta connector rings, claiming that if they got into the wrong hands, they'd be disastrous consequences. These connectors, we eventually learn, are the wedding rings of P3 and his wife and fellow agent Katya, who died during World War II. It seems that Shekhinov wanted these two to be enforcers of the system with privileged access to it. The plan Shekhinov maintains is to destroy the alpha connector once the rules of Collective 2.0 are established, so that everyone does indeed become equal within the system. In the game's most blatant reference to BioShock, Dr. Larissa takes you on a secret elevator inside a lighthouse down to an underwater facility called the Academy of Consequences. This place is a nightmarish prison of test subjects for Collective. The ones who aren't dead are stuck in a walking, dreamlike state called limbo. At this point, P3 learns that Voshkod, an implant that can send the agent's consciousness into the imaginary world while turning their body into a killing machine, is also intended to be integrated into Collective 2.0. We learn that Shekhinov implanted Voshkod into P3 when treating the serious brain injuries he sustained during World War II. This was to ostensibly to stave off P3's PTSD and help him recover his brain function, but in reality it eradicated his memories of his wife Katya, who died during the war, and seemingly put him under the total control of Shekhinov. Along with the atomic heart plan, this mind control implant is another secret aspect of Collective 2.0, making Shekhinov look even more villainous. It's at this point that we can deduce that it was P3 in a state of limbo who killed Evgeny Molotov and his guards, and a short while later P3 goes into limbo again and kills Dr. Larissa. We'll eventually find out, however, that it was in fact Shekhinov's fellow scientist Sharaton Zakharov who created the mind control aspect of Collective 2.0, and indeed that it was Zakharov that was causing P3's limbo blackouts. Charles, as we find out in the end, has his own motives that are far more nefarious than those of Shekhinov. In terms of the endings, guys, and this is really interesting, there's a lot of references to BioShock in this, and that's why, it's really fascinating that Mundfish went down this journey in terms of making a game that, in my mind, is somewhat a spiritual successor to BioShock. We've been waiting so long for BioShock 4 to come out. We know Judas is going to be coming out from the creator of BioShock, but I am very, very excited to see where this story ends up. Even if it's in, future sequels and installments in the future, that's one thing that I'm very excited about, to say the least, especially even after these couple of endings. So after finding out the true nature of Collective 2.0, P3 goes to confront Shekhinov at his headquarters. He gets taken there in the mechanical flying house of Granny Xena, a retired secret agent who appears intermediately a couple of times throughout the game. In this encounter, Xena reveals herself to be the mother of P3's dead wife, Katya. Xena implores P3 to finish the job with Shekhinov once and for all, though P3 has doubts, and at this point the player has a choice of what to do, which will result in one of two endings. Now, the endings of Atomic Heart are their own kind of complicated. The first ending is achieved by selecting the first dialogue option, "I'm not laying a finger on Shekhinov," in your chat with Granny Xena before the final battle against the twins. When you do this, P3 will go on a massive rant about how he's had enough of being used by everyone, tear the Charles implant out of his hands, and basically run off into the sunset. You don't have the final boss fight against the twins, you don't confront Shekhinov, and you do away with Charles. We can probably assume from this that Shekhinov's Collective 2.0 plan goes ahead, giving him an unfathomable amount of power and putting him in a position to execute the Atomic Heart plan, which involves selling robots to US companies, then activating their combat mode to destroy the country from the inside out. Of course, we don't know if that actually goes ahead, because all that the narration here tells us is that P3 basically leaves the facility and disappears. In some ways, this is actually the good ending. Finally thinking for himself, P3 asks relevant questions like why Shekhinov hasn't used the implant in P3's head to put him in limbo, and points out that the mind control implant capable of sending people into limbo was Zakhanov's idea, implying that maybe he's the real villain here. Okay, so obviously, guys, what's going to be very fascinating to me with future DLC, with, kind of what's going to be canon, because obviously with, upcoming DLC looks like, he's in limbo, and that's going to be really, really fascinating to say the least. But where they go in the future with future DLC, future installments of this franchise, I'm hoping that we get multiple Atomic Heart titles. After playing through the game, I'm playing through it a second time right now. Absolutely love it. I really do. It's like my new BioShock. I love what Mundfish has done with Atomic Heart, and I can't wait to see what they do in the future. But the first ending is an interesting one. Now on to the second ending. You choose the second dialogue option with Granny Xena, and you'll proceed to the final battle against the twins. Get past that, and you get to experience the other ending of the game. In this ending, an angry P3, believing that Shekhinov had been manipulating him all this time, shoots Shekhinov in the stomach. The moment this happens, Shekhinov tells P3 that it's in fact his hand-implanted sidekick Charles who had been manipulating him, even causing him to go into a limbo state, during which time P3 unknowingly killed Molotov and his men, as well as Dr. Larissa. Zakharov, the supposed scientist who worked alongside Shekhinov on the polymer research, it seems that Shekhinov killed Zakharov, then placed his consciousness into the implant in P3's hand to help him carry out his mission. Why Shekhinov would put Zakharov or Charles in such a position of power when the latter clearly has motive to want him dead is beyond us. Nevertheless, with Shekhinov bleeding out, Charles sent an electrical current through P3, disabling him. Charles then escapes his hand implant in the form of a blob of polymeric goo. He crawls in the nearby vat of red polymer, which can be used to create new life forms by absorbing existing ones, and emerges in a humanoid shape of red polymer. Sharatin then kills Shekhinov and sends P3 back into limbo, where he's reunited with what looks like one of the robotic twins, but most likely represents P3's deceased wife, Katya. We then get a voiceover outro saying that the neuropolymer object consumes Shekhinov and that there's no trace of either Shekhinov, Sharatin, or P3. We have no idea if Sharatin activates Collective or the Atomic Heart program, though given his invention of the mind-controlling implants and general disdain for humanity, it seems reasonable to assume that he'll try to go ahead and use Collective to seize control of humanity. How he plans to do this, considering he's a rather suspicious-looking giant human-shaped goo blob, is anyone's guess. So what does it all mean? Well, clearly that ending reframes just about everything your supposed sidekick Charles was telling you throughout the whole game. It makes you question whether Shekhinov really wanted to control humanity, or if that was just what Charlatan Charles wanted you to think. After all, it's almost certainly Charles who kept sending you into murderous limbo blackouts, and it was he who invented the mind control aspect of the neural implants. Beyond what Charles told us, Shekhinov's goals with Collective 2.0 were to give humans more direct control over robots and to carry out the Atomic Heart plan and use robotics to destroy America. In the context of the story, those are kind of reasonable aims. Yes, Shekhinov did wrong by P3 by hooking him up with the Zakharov's Vashkod implant in the first place, but those aren't exactly smoking guns for plans of world domination. Neither Shekhinov nor Zakharov are good people, but the former seems like the lesser of two evils, and opting for the ending where P3 just walks away from it all is implicitly supporting him. But again, we come back to the fact that Atomic Heart is a weird game, and neither of its endings really tell us whether the schemes of Shekhinov or Zakharov come to pass. Maybe there are other hints hiding in the game that could reveal more information about everyone's true intentions, but for now it seems that developer Munfish wants to keep those endings at least a bit ambiguous, keeping us in the dark like the game's hero. So what I love about this, guys, is that we found out more and more information about what was going on over the course of time throughout the game. But the big thing here is that even though we were finding out more and more information about Atomic Heart as we went through, there's still so much mystery to it. And that's what really is fascinating to me about this title is, you know, what's going to be canon here? What exactly was all going on here? And it's really fascinating. I think Munfish wanted to keep us in the dark, so to speak, because when you think of games like BioShock Infinite, so many different directions that you could go with, you know, with a BioShock 4 in BioShock Infinite, but Atomic Heart feels very similar to this, where they could go in a number of directions. And, you know, obviously having those choices at the end is very, very interesting to me that Munfish decided to make there be a couple of alternate endings. It'll be fascinating to me as more and more DLC comes out. And then, of course, hopefully we get an Atomic Heart 2 that starts answering some of those questions. But what I love about it is the mystery behind it, because we're going to be talking about it for years to come. Let me know, though, guys, what did you think about the ending, and what do you think all makes the most sense from Atomic Heart and Atomic Heart Explained? I would love to hear your guys' thoughts about this in the comment section down below. Let's have a conversation about it. And for more Atomic Heart content and videos, keep it here with zrotv. One of my most anticipated games of the future is Far Cry 7. Obviously, guys, the Far Cry series reminds me a lot of like the Resident Evil franchise. Not that they're even in the same genre, but the way that it reminds me a lot of Resident Evil is as Resident Evil has gone on as a franchise, Resident Evil seems to continue to get better and better. And Far Cry reminds me a lot of this as well. It reminds me of a franchise that gets better and better game over game. Now, I will say that Far Cry 5, in my opinion, was the best Far Cry game ever made. Far Cry 6 I thought was awesome as well. I don't think it was quite as good as Far Cry 5, but it just feels like they are building a lot of momentum, lots of people talking about Far Cry and the future of Far Cry as well. So what I wanted to go ahead and do in this segment of the show is talk about everything that we want out of Far Cry 7. I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts and opinions on this, and I would love to hear yours in the comment section down below. So let's get into it. So guys, I'm going to be giving you guys 5 things that I would love to see out of Far Cry 7. Coming in at number 1 is multiplayer. Guys, I talk about this all the time. Multiplayer, in my mind, is something that would go so well hand in hand with none other than Far Cry. It's built for it. You can just tell. Imagine playing against other people across the world, on certain maps that they make based from the campaign mode. I just think it would be incredible. I thought they could make a very good multiplayer, compelling experience, to say the least. You look at other games that are out there, Call of Duty, Battlefield, CSGO, Valorant, all these games that are out there that have amazing multiplayer experiences. I'm thinking to myself, why couldn't Far Cry join the fray of FPSs that have a multiplayer experience where you're going up against other people across the world? That leads me to number 2, guys. And coming in at number 2, the next thing I would love to see are co-op modes in Far Cry 7. I would love to see, guys, where if I'm done playing the single player story or done playing it a couple of times, I get to play that campaign with a friend of mine. We can go at it together, play through the story mode, or if we want to go up against waves and waves of enemies like a horde mode from Gears of War, or we want to go up against other people across the world in a PvP setting, we can do those things. Having co-op, I think, would be really special for Far Cry 7. Coming in at number 3, I would love to see an increase in customization for your character, your customization for your weapons. I think those things would just add a lot to the overall experience as you're going and progressing through the campaign or progressing through the multiplayer, the co-op modes. You're able to get new camos on your weapons. You're able to get new attachments and all these different things that you can customize as time goes throughout the story, throughout the multiplayer, throughout the co-op. I think that would be absolutely awesome. It would bring you back to the experience over and over again. Coming in at number 4 for me, guys, one of the things that Far Cry has done such a good job at is creating incredibly compelling villains. Well, one of the things that I would love to see, guys, are, of course, new enemies, new locations, new weapons, new vehicles that you can drive. I would love to see, and I'm sure they're going to give us some new locations and all of those things, but I would love to see an emphasis on new locations, new enemies, a very compelling new villain, because they've got a lot of living up to do when we talk about, like, from the Seed family and all these different amazing villains, guys. I would absolutely love to see an increased amount of, detail when it comes to the enemies, to the locations, to the different environments. I am really, really excited about those things and passionate about those things. And so I would love those things here in Far Cry 7. Last but not least, guys, coming in at number 5 for me, the thing that I would love to see here would be a roadmap moving forward for Far Cry 7. That would be like a season pass, DLC, a roadmap that can lead us throughout the course of Far Cry 7's, timeline. In terms of, as we're waiting for another Far Cry game to come out, I want there to be a ton of content for us to be able to take in upon launch, but then even, after launch, and having like a number of DLCs that come out, having a season pass, things of that nature to really keep you engaged as a player, to bring you back to the experience over and over again, I think is going to be very, very important moving into Far Cry 7. But those are the 5 things that I would love to see, guys, out of Far Cry 7. What would you like to see? I would love to hear your thoughts about this in the comment section down below. And for more Far Cry 7 content and videos, keep it here with zrotv. So Ghost Recon is a title that I really enjoyed, guys, especially when I felt like it was in its prime, when it came to Advanced Warfighter all the way to Future Soldier. I feel like, you know, from that period of time in Ghost Recon history was the best. That was like prime Ghost Recon. From 2006 to 2012, it was incredible in my personal opinion. Absolutely loved it. But the more recent entries have been very shaky at best. And I want to talk about what happened here to Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon, and are they ever going to find their way, that being Ubisoft, with this franchise? Let's talk about it. So guys, obviously, as I said, I felt like the prime time, the best years in Ghost Recon's history was from 2006 to 2012, when he had Advanced Warfighter 2, Ghost Recon Predator, Ghost Recon, Shadow Wars, and then Future Soldier. And ever since then, in my personal opinion, it has not lived up to the name. Especially more recently when we got Wildlands and then Breakpoint, I felt like those two games were shaky at best. And then when we talk about Ghost Recon Frontline, the most recent project that was worked on by Ubisoft, I definitely want to talk about this, guys. This is coming from Ghost Recon Frontline's Wikipedia page. Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Frontline is a canceled live service, first-person, massively multiplayer online PvP, class-based tactical shooter battle royale game by Ubisoft, announced on October 6, 2021. Such a mouthful. It was under development for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series XS, plus Amazon Luna and Google Stadia. On July 21st, 2022, Ubisoft announced that it had canceled development of the game. So when we talk about the development and the cancellation of this, guys, well, the first trailer received a large number of dislikes on YouTube. Ubisoft promoted a giveaway for Ghost Recon's 20 years anniversary. Due to an undisclosed reason, Ubisoft canceled the alpha test and delayed it indefinitely. On January 28, 2022, Ubisoft launched a closed beta for the game under confidentiality agreements, although gameplay soon leaked onto Twitch. The footage was heavily criticized for being visually and conceptually similar to Call of Duty Warzone, another free-to-play battle royale game. In July 2022, Ubisoft announced that it had canceled the project. So really, guys, here's the deal. When I think of like what happened to Ghost Recon, I feel like it suffered the same effects as a lot of other games out there have when you look at the big juggernauts in the space, that being like Call of Duty, Valorant. You know, there's a lot of games out there that are shooters that are just, you know, at the peak of their powers at this point in time. Ghost Recon feels like one of those titles that was chasing trends instead of being its own thing, instead of, you know, focusing on the things that it does really well. And when you got Wildlands and then Breakpoint, I really felt like that was the breaking point for Ghost Recon, no pun intended. But I gotta tell you, Ghost Recon has so much potential, and it's frustrating to me as a fan of this franchise to see kind of where it's gone. And I'm hoping that in the future it changes course and it goes back to its true self. I really feel that having another Advanced Warfighter or another Future Soldier, something of that nature, would be like a continuation of one of those, could really turn it back into the right direction. I just feel like they're chasing trends too much instead of being who they are and being the franchise that, you know, it was built to be. And instead they're trying to chase after games like Call of Duty and, you know, going into the battle royale genre. There's nothing wrong with going into battle royale, but do your own type of battle royale. Don't try to copy what others are doing, you know. And I think that obviously the criticism, it's warranted. It makes sense to me. You know, and so I'm hoping that Ghost Recon and Ubisoft can figure out a way to really get the trajectory that the franchise is going down. And I feel like as these games have come out, it's gotten more negative and negative reception. So I really hope that they go in the direction of Advanced Warfighter or Future Soldier. I think that could really help. All in all, guys, I think that it's really, the bottom line is this is another franchise that is subject to the same issues as a number of other franchises out there. They're trying to chase trends instead of being who they are and sticking within their realm of confidence, that being, you know, what Ghost Recon was built on in the first place. But I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts about this. Let's have a real conversation in the comment section down below about Ghost Recon. What happened here? Where do you think the future of Ghost Recon is going? And what direction would you guys like to see Ghost Recon go down? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And for more Ghost Recon content and videos, stay here with zrotv. A franchise that I would love to see a continuation of is Prototype. I absolutely loved Prototype 1, guys. I thought it was incredibly innovative and ahead of its time. It reminded me a lot of the Infamous franchise, and I have been clamoring for a Prototype 3 and been pounding the table saying I want to see a Prototype 3 come out. And I want to talk about what happened here to this franchise and could we ever see it, continue in the future. Let's get into it. So guys, in an article that was posted by Shubhankar Pariyat of Gaming Bolt, developed by Radical Entertainment and inspired by the studio's rollicking 2005 romp, The Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction, Prototype was a superhero game that attempted to deliver a power fantasy to its players like very few other games had. For the most part, it did that quite successfully, and sure enough, was met with solid critical and commercial success. That in turn led to a sequel, which was also received well by the majority of its players. And yet, even with its fascinating premise, its bombastic gameplay, and decent initial success, the franchise ended up not only dying a quick death, but even reducing developer Radical Entertainment to a shell of its former self. So what happened here? Well, the first thing for me, guys, is that I feel that the franchise, I thought that it was a massive step in the wrong direction with the second game because they moved away from Alex Mercer, our main character in the first game. I just felt that they needed to continue his story, at least for a few games, and they moved away from him so quickly. I remember when the promos were coming out and they were releasing posters for, Prototype 2, not seeing Alex Mercer there did not make a lot of sense to me. Moving on to another character is always fine, but you got to build the franchise first before you move on. You think of Gears of War. Gears of War had 3 games with Marcus Phoenix as the main character. Then when Gears of War 4 came out, they transitioned to JD Phoenix, who is Marcus Phoenix's son. So it kind of made sense. He's like passing the torch on to his son. And then I felt like they didn't stick with JD very long. They moved over to Kate Diaz. And so I just feel that even games like that, they're moving on too quickly from their main characters. And so they did this so quickly with Prototype, and that's where I think really met its demise in a massive way. Radical Entertainment Activision launched Prototype 2 in April 2012, nearly 3 years after the launch of the first game. And while it lacked the novelty factor of the original game, it was another solid superhero game. Combat had been improved to become more brutal, offering even more options with abilities and movement. But though the combination of seamless traversal and brawling blended together in great ways once more, Prototype 2's nature as an iterative sequel worked against it to some extent. Its story, which saw you playing as James Heller and turned former protagonist Alex Mercer into a villain, was widely criticized, while on the gameplay front, with the novelty of the first game no longer a factor, the sequel was on the receiving end of more criticism for being too shallow and as such too repetitive. And I agree with this. I think it was, a little bit repetitive for sure, that being the second game. And like I said, moving away from Alex Mercer and to James Heller, not saying that James Heller is a terrible character, because I think he's a fine character, but I would have much rather played as him, later on in the franchise than in the second game. I thought Alex Mercer was just getting started, reminded me of a character like from Assassin's Creed or something, and I just would have loved to see him continue his story before being turned into a villain. The arcadey fun and bombastic action it was offered was of course appealing to a large chunk of the player base, but Prototype 2 failed to generate the buzz that its predecessor had. Initial sales were solid, with the game outselling some of the biggest games on the market for a couple of months after the launch, but that quickly fizzles out. Not long afterward, Activision announced that the sizable investments it had made in the development and marketing of Prototype 2 had not been justified the way they had hoped. The game was deemed a commercial failure, and between 2010 and 2012, Radical Entertainment suffered significant layoffs. By the time those layoffs were done, Radical had been, radically altered. It was reduced to a support studio, though even that description is more than a little charitable. Since the launch of Prototype 2 a decade ago, the only thing Radical Entertainment has been credited with is providing some assistance on the original Destiny's development. That doesn't mean that that's all the work the studio has done, but any other work has been so minuscule that Activision hasn't even bothered to mention it. In fact, it wouldn't be surprising if a large number of people out there didn't even know that Radical was even a thing anymore. And this is a real bummer, guys, because I think Radical, they made something really special here with Prototype. I just didn't like the direction they went with the second game, but I don't think that that means that Radical should no longer be working on games. I think that they have a lot of talented people over there, and the fact that, Activision is really almost holding this company back in a major way is such a disservice to the creators over at Radical Entertainment. Of course, as with most other Activision studios and properties, there is a glimmer of hope for both Prototype and its developer thanks to Microsoft. Xbox is in the process of acquiring Activision Blizzard, with the deal set to be finalized sometime before July 2023. And Radical Entertainment was specifically named in the list of Activision studios that Microsoft would be absorbing once Radical has become a first-party Xbox developer and Prototype a first-party Xbox franchise. Might we see the IP getting a revival? That's certainly the hope, even though right now it's based on little more than wishful thinking. Given Microsoft's Game Pass-centric strategy, it wouldn't be surprising to see a number of franchises getting another shot at success, and Game Pass might even make it possible for many of them to attract a much larger audience than perhaps they would have had under ordinary circumstances. Hopefully, Microsoft will see the value in Prototype, because as those who've played any of the two games will tell you, there's a lot of potential here. With a AAA budget and proper backing by a major publisher, the IP could become a big name in the industry once again. We sure hope it does, because right now, there's little doubt in anyone's mind that Activision has let it go to waste. 100% agree with that. I think Activision has absolutely just kind of let this company and this IP go to the wayside. And I feel that maybe, just maybe, Xbox is going to bring this, franchise back to the fray. What would be awesome, guys, in a perfect world, I'd love to see Xbox greenlight with Radical Entertainment a remake of Prototype 1. See what everyone thinks of that. Comes to Game Pass, things of that nature. I think a remake would do awesome, by the way, updated graphics and things of that nature. And then that could definitely greenlight a Prototype 3. I don't think that they would just all of the resource and development for a Prototype 3 up front. I think they would make a remake first, see what kind of reception they get, and then make a Prototype 3. But let me know, guys, what do you all think happened here to Prototype? Do you think we'll ever get a Prototype 3 in the future? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And for more Prototype 3 content and videos, keep it here with zrotv. So a shooter that I absolutely love, guys, is Rainbow Six. And I believe that the peak of Rainbow Six, you could definitely say Rainbow Six Siege, because of the popularity of Rainbow Six Siege, and obviously from an esports perspective to just casual players playing the game, Rainbow Six Siege is incredible. But I want to take you back to Rainbow Six Vegas and then Rainbow Six Vegas 2, and why this franchise or sub-series in the overarching franchise of Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six was my absolute favorite. I loved Vegas, guys, because I loved the setting of it. I thought the campaign was incredible. I loved the co-op modes where, I'll never forget playing Rainbow Six Vegas with my cousin and playing with my friends on Library, on, Terrorist Hunt, and, just having multiple ways of being able to connect with that game and that sub-series was very, very special in my personal opinion. Now, Ubisoft, they shut down those servers, a long time ago, for Rainbow Six Vegas 2. And even though Vegas 2, in my personal opinion, was not as good as Vegas 1, what happened here? Because I personally, like I said, I think that Rainbow Six Vegas was the best Rainbow Six experience that we have had ever in the franchise's history. Rainbow Six Siege, sure, yeah, I think from a gameplay perspective, they've done and they've honed a lot of what they, did right, wrong, and what they could do better from previous experiences. But I just thought that Rainbow Six Vegas, from an overall package perspective, when we're talking about co-op modes, when we're talking about, the single player story, absolutely incredible. And by the way, Rainbow Six Siege doesn't even have a single player story. So to me, it just made a lot of sense for them to continue making Rainbow Six Vegas games, to at least do a trilogy. But they shut down the servers, and they did it, really months prior to them actually shutting them down. It was just a lot of people started complaining about it. And then they said, hey, we're focused focusing on, other bigger IPs where most of our, fan base is playing currently. And so they shut down, Future Soldier for Ghost Recon. They shut down, rainbowsixvegas. They shut down a number of those servers. And it's a very unfortunate thing because I would absolutely love to see Vegas come back in the Ghost Recon universe. I think it could be something really special, especially in current times. Even a remake would be really awesome in my personal opinion. I just think that Rainbow Six deserves to have games that come out that aren't just multiplayer experiences. Don't get me wrong, guys. I talk about it all the time here on the YouTube channel that multiplayer experiences bring you back to the experience over and over again, which they do, but it's also important when you're trying to build legacy, lore, story, to have campaign modes in your games as well. And so I believe that if you could just create something with a Rainbow Six Vegas 3 where you open up the door to having a single player story and also having co-op modes where you do like more terrorist hunt or whatever the co-op modes are, I think those could be very, very special in my personal opinion. And just more ways that you can connect with the Rainbow Six universe. It continues building that lore, guys, building the story and being able to play with your friends and going up against, waves and waves of enemies or trying to strategize ways of beating certain levels with your friends is something really, really cool. And not that the multiplayer experience, because I think Rainbow Six Siege is great. They should keep it at that. And I think if they make a Rainbow Six Vegas 3, they shouldn't make a multiplayer experience outside of like co-op. They should have co-op modes where it's like PvE, and then you keep Rainbow Six Siege the multiplayer experience. But, what do you guys think happened here? Obviously, Rainbow Six Vegas 2 did not do as well as Rainbow Six Vegas 1, from a commercial perspective. And I think that there's a number of reasons why they probably moved away. It wasn't like the popularity wasn't there, critical reception, things of that nature. But I just think that there's so much still there that they could do with Rainbow Six Vegas and this sub-series in the overarching franchise that is Rainbow Six. I would love to see it in the future. But what do you guys really think happened here with Rainbow Six Vegas? Do you think we could ever get a Rainbow Six Vegas 3 or like a Rainbow Six remake, something of that nature? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And for more Rainbow Six Vegas content and videos, keep it here with zrotv. Another Ubisoft franchise that I'm really excited to see a continuation of, really in the form of a remake, at least right here, right now, is Splinter Cell. Splinter Cell, guys, I absolutely love this franchise. And yeah, the last entry I wasn't a massive fan of, but just so many incredible games have come out of this franchise. And, playing as Sam Fisher and seeing his story develop and evolve over time has been something really, really special. And I want to talk about this Splinter Cell remake, the things that we know about it, and when we can expect this game to come out, and could it mean more future entries in the Splinter Cell universe? Let's talk about it. So guys, in an article coming to us from Ellie Gould of Tech Radar, a Splinter Cell remake is officially in the works. A Splinter Cell remake is on its way, though it's been a little while since we heard anything official from the folks over at Ubisoft. From what we've seen so far, the team aims to rebuild the classic stealth game for a new audience while staying true to what made it so special all those years ago. It's easy to see why the Splinter Cell remake is one of the most anticipated upcoming games on the horizon, given just how groundbreaking the original game was. It released all the way back in 2002 and paved the way for the third-person stealth games that followed. The remake is set to offer up this classic experience, but retooled for modern audiences. Ubisoft released a video announcing the Splinter Cell remake in December of 2021. In addition to the announcement, the video also delves into the history of the Splinter Cell series and how it changed the identity of Ubisoft, taking the Toronto-based studio from working on Rayman, a bright and colorful platformer, and thrusting it into the AAA lifestyle. We know that the Splinter Cell remake will revisit the world and story from the first game released in 2002. The original plot starts with two undercover U.S. operatives that go missing in Georgia, leading to Black Ops agent Sam Fisher being sent in to investigate. As Sam searches for the missing agents, he uncovers a larger plot surrounding a corrupt government and nuclear missiles. It's unclear how much of this plot will remain in the Splinter Cell remake, however, as Ubisoft confirmed in a job listing from September that it is rewriting and updating the story for a modern-day audience. We want to keep the spirit and themes of the original game while exploring our characters in the world to make them more authentic and believable, the listing stated. So while producer Matt West has previously established, Ubisoft wants to ensure the spirit of the early games remains intact, except a few updates. So obviously, guys, it seems like they want to keep this true to the original title when it came out, which I think is great. And, really, I think that releasing the original Splinter Cell is going to be very, very good for the franchise moving forward. I mean, I really started on this franchise with Pandora Tomorrow. That's really what got me into the Splinter Cell games. And, just from there, I followed it and I purchased every single Splinter Cell ever since Pandora Tomorrow. And I got to tell you, the original game, I cannot wait to play this remake. I think it's going to be something really special, going to bring a lot of new people into playing Splinter Cell. And once you get like the current audience, the current people who love Splinter Cell, mixed with new people playing the game, it's going to be, I think it could be something really special, especially if it's done well. In the announcement blog post, producer Matt West revealed that the Splinter Cell remake is being built from the ground up, so players can expect visual and design updates. West also confirmed, contrary to rumor, the remake will be linear and not feature an open world. At present, further details haven't been shared on Splinter Cell Remake's gameplay. However, as this is a remake of the original title, we can expect that the hallmarks that made Splinter Cell so iconic will be present here. Stealth was always the operative goal in this series. Using the environment around you, the lighting and flexible movement was preferable rather than brute forcing your way through obstacles. So look, guys, I mean, I am so excited for this title to release, and I think it could be something very special for the Splinter Cell fan base that's here now and for the upcoming fan base that's going to be there when this game comes out. Because I guarantee you, if Ubisoft knocks this thing out of the park in terms of from a graphical fidelity perspective to gameplay wise, all of those things, this has a great, great future. That being just Splinter Cell, the remake, but also the overarching franchise that is Splinter Cell. What we could get in the future could be something very special. I've just wanted them to continue making these games, and it's been so long, it's felt like, since they made one, and made one that was really, really compelling, and I'm very excited to see what they do here with the remake. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section down below. Are you excited about Splinter Cell and the remake that is to come? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more Splinter Cell content and videos, stay here with zrotv. So a new Crysis game is coming, guys, and this has been something that I've been wanting to see for a while now. Crysis is a fascinating franchise, guys. I think Crysis 2 was probably my favorite of the three that have come out, and I'm really, really excited for this continuation of the main storyline. Obviously, we had, a spin-off, and obviously, this has been a franchise that's very much so beloved. I remember when the first Crysis came out, everybody was talking about having the best PC to run it because it had the most insane graphics of the time, and I think that Crytek, the guys who are making Crysis 4, are probably going to try to raise the bar once again. And I want to talk about, though, where is this game at this point in time? When do we think that we could expect it in the future? So let's talk about it. So guys, in an article coming to us from the official Crytek blog post from their CEO, Anvi Yerli, it's something you have been asking us for a long time. So it's now finally time to confirm. Yes, the next Crysis game is happening. We are so pleased and excited to bring this news to you, and we really can't wait to reveal more details about what lies ahead. Right now, the game is in the early stages of development, so it will be a while yet, but we wanted to bring you the news at this time as we are so hyped for the future and to let you know that we will be listening to our community. Crytek has a proud history of working with our community to develop the games you want to play. Crysis is incredibly important to so many people. It's beloved by gamers everywhere, and some of those working in the industry today are doing so because of the original game. So we want to make sure the next installment of the franchise lives up to all of your expectations. As development progresses, we will release more details when we can, but in the meantime, know that our dedicated and talented team is working hard to bring you a truly next-gen shooter. Now guys, when this blog post came out, it was January 26th of 2022, so it's been a while since we heard anything about Crysis 4, and in my mind, guys, I believe that they are, still pretty early in the stages of development. I think we're going to be hearing more about Crysis 4 next year, that being 2024, whether it's another teaser trailer or something of that nature. One of the things that there seems to be a lot of emphasis on is the single player story, which is awesome. I definitely am very excited to play a Crysis 4, single player story. I'm hoping though that they're not forgetting about co-op or forgetting about multiplayer modes as well to make this thing a full package, because they're talking about a truly next gen shooter. And when I hear those, that kind of language, what that means to me is that they are focusing heavily on making a full package, something that is a full-blown AAA title that's going to have multiple ways that you can connect with it. And I'm hoping that, we get the single player story and it's absolutely incredible, but we also get multiplayer modes as well as co-op modes. The multiplayer in Crysis 2 I thought was awesome. I loved the second Crysis multiplayer, and I would love to see Crytek really take this to another level here, and I believe they definitely will. We see what Crytek is doing with Hunt Showdown. Hunt Showdown is awesome, guys, and they've done a great job of just adding more and more content to that over time and servicing it and doing things that the community wants them to do. They do a great job of listening to the community, and I'm really excited to see what they do here. They're hiring a number of positions to get involved with Crysis 4, and like I said, guys, if you're interested in those things, definitely check out Crytek's website. They're hiring a lot of positions, and it's all based around pretty much Crysis 4, and that's the working title at this point in time. So where is the game at this point, guys? I believe that it's very, still probably pretty early into development. I think that they got all hands on deck though working on this game. They probably have a small team that's working on Hunt Showdown, continuing to service and update things as time goes, but I think it's pretty much all hands on deck with Crysis 4, and we'll probably be hearing things in 2024, and then maybe we'll begin the release in 2025 or 2026. With that being said, everyone, what do you guys think about Crysis 4? Where do you think this game is at this point, and when do you think it's going to release to the world? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and for more Crysis 4 content and videos, keep it here with zrotv. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, just keep grinding. And as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.